The iPad Pro is an insanely good product. It is by far the best tablet on the market, and the only thing that comes close to it is the iPad Air. It nails all of the features you would want a tablet to nail, like the battery, display, and over everything else, the performance. It's so good, Apple wants it to transcend the tablet market and markets it as a laptop replacement. But could it be one? It depends. Let me explain. First of all, let's talk about the iPad Pro purely as a tablet, starting with the build. The iPad Pro is most definitely an Apple product, and its build is Apple grade. The device, with squared off edges and the iPhone S camera bump, looks awesome from the back, and the futuristic, bezel-less design makes it look incredible from the front too. It's stupidly thin, around 6mm, and crazy light, only 508 grams. On the top, you have the power button with which you can activate Siri, and on the right you have the volume rocker and the Apple Pencil holder, and on the bottom you have the USB-C port, which is Thunderbolt certified on the newer M1 equipped models. The display is also great. It's a 120Hz IPS panel with mini LED backlighting in the newer 2021 12.9-inch models with the max brightness of 600 nits. It's not the brightest panel in the world, but it's very usable in harsh sunlight too. It, of course, is a ProMotion panel, which means it has a max refresh rate of 120Hz, but it's a variable refresh rate display, which means it throttles down to conserve battery during tasks which don't really need the 120Hz. You never really notice the throttling down though. It also supports the P3 color gamut, which means it shows a lot more colors than typical sRGB. The iPad's display is really pleasant to look at with punchy colors and fairly consistent color reproduction too. It has really quick touch response times, and the jello effect while scrolling is not at all present. The aspect ratio is a bit weird for content consumption. It's actually the IMAX aspect ratio, and you do have black bars while watching typical 16:9 video, but it's easy to get used to, and I would prefer this to having a 16:9 display. The display has a resolution of 1668 x 2338, around 265 ppi in the 11-inch model, and it's extremely hard to see the individual pixels. The camera is not something you really think about with an iPad, but well, it's there. It's alright. The iPad Pro has a 12MP wide and a 10MP ultra-wide rear camera set with a flash and the LiDAR sensor. The wide has an aperture of f1.8 and the ultra-wide has an aperture of f2.4. It also has the true depth camera array with a 7MP or a 12MP front camera, 12MP being on the 2021 models, allowing the iPads to take front portrait mode shots, but more importantly, have Face ID. Face ID is awesome. It lets you unlock the iPad in any orientation, and it's really fast. It did take some time for me to get used to it, but once I did, it became almost second nature to use it. The true depth camera also allows you to take Animojis and Memojis, but I maintain, like many others, that the camera should be on the side bezel, not the top one, as most people use the iPad in landscape orientation. Photos from the iPad are okay, with decent dynamic range and detail in daylight. Once it becomes darker though, the image tends to become a lot more noisy and soft. The ultra-wide isn't terrible, but it isn't great either, with low distortion on the edges but a soft image, which turns noisy once the light falls. I haven't found much of a use for LiDAR as of yet, but I have noticed that the Measure app has become a lot more accurate, and I found it to be within 1 to 2 centimeters of the actual value. A huge step up from the 5 to 8 centimeter difference between the older Measure app results compared to the actual length. If you do a lot of stuff with AR, you'll be pleased with this. The mics and speakers are really good too. The studio mics record really clean and detailed sound. Even though it is a bit lacking in the low end compared to the Blue Yeti, it's good enough that I would be happy to record a voiceover on it. The iPad has a stereo speaker setup with 2 grills on either side, the top and the bottom. The array gets really loud, but it still doesn't distort at all. You give out detailed sound with clear mids and highs and good bass even if it isn't booming. It also has good stereo separation. The Apple Pencil is pretty much the perfect accessory for this. It charges in a way more logical manner, unlike the Gen 1 Apple Pencil, and also a lot faster by magnetically attaching to the top of the iPad. You can use this magnet to store the pencil too. This is also how you pair it. Stick the Apple Pencil on the iPad and in legitimately 5 seconds, bam, it's connected. It's also pretty good as a stylus. The pressure sensitivity is good and the tilting mechanism is also good. The double tap gesture on the pencil is also really good and it works 95% of the time. Some artists may not like this though. The iPad has a glossy screen so the pencil just slides over it. But the pencil is not just for artists. It can be used by everyone for marking up PDFs, photo editing, note taking, and with iPadOS 14, Scribble. With Scribble, you can use the pencil to write into a text box, and the iPad converts that into actual text. I assumed it would be really fiddly, but it works surprisingly well. Scribble picks up even my garbage handwriting, and it's unreal how well it works. The gestures are also pretty intuitive. A vertical line to split or join words, a horizontal line to select, and a scribble to delete. Sometimes though, the iPad doesn't pick up the gesture, but it works most of the time. The battery is also pretty good. I usually get 6 to 8 hours of rather heavy use, with a lot of Zoom, GarageBand, web browsing, YouTube, and Notion. You'll probably be able to get up to 12 hours of battery if you do more light tasks. It also retains battery really well. Just turn it off, come back a week later, and it'll probably have lost just 2% of battery. It's easily a 2.5 to 3 day device. The addition of USB-C is also awesome. USB-C just opens up the iPad to so many accessories and lets you use one cable to charge it, your laptop, and your phone if it's Android. It charges in a few hours with the included 18-watt power brick. The performance of the iPad Pro is incredible. It's really miraculous how much performance Apple was able to get out of this fanless device. The iPad Pro runs the A12Z Bionic 64-bit ARM SoC with 8GB of RAM and up to a terabyte of internal SSD storage. The iPad is stupidly fast and above all efficient, and I've never noticed the lack of RAM at all, even with 15 plus apps open and Safari running in the background with 20 to 25 full-on desktop apps running in the background. Creative apps run super well on this too, with Photoshop not causing the iPad to slow down one bit. Lightroom is really snappy and adjustments are really smooth. Premiere Rush and iMovie are really quick too. Scrubbing through high resolution footage is easy, and it almost never buffers, and export times are super fast too. A 4K video with sample text, sound effects, and music, which was 1 minute 15 seconds, just took 40 seconds to export on iMovie. 40 seconds! I must add though, it would crash quite frequently, but now iMovie has been updated and that issue is fixed. The same video took 2 minutes and 28 seconds on Premiere Rush, but due to inconsistencies between the two programs, I don't think you can compare them. I tested the same project in Premiere Rush on a OnePlus 7T, and here's what I got. The OnePlus 7T took 4 minutes and 40 seconds to export it in Premiere Rush. The iPad absolutely blew it away. Bear in mind that the 7T is not an old phone by any stretch of the imagination. It also runs GarageBand really well, a project I have with a maxed out 25 tracks, and a ton of plugins doesn't make the iPad lag one bit. It also exports a song at max quality in around 30 seconds. That's stupidly fast. Even if you don't use heavy apps on your iPad, you'll feel the speed. It's stupidly fast, and I can't overstate it. The newer M1 equipped models supposedly have a 50% faster CPU, and that's wild. I can't even imagine how fast that'd be. I'm very certain that even if you run Xcode or Final Cut or Logic on this, it wouldn't slow down at all. Which brings me really neatly to the next part of the video. The iPad Pro is not cheap. Its prices land uncomfortably close to that of mid-range Windows 10 and lights and even the MacBook Air. So, to combat this, Apple is selling the iPad Pro as a laptop replacement. But can you actually use this iPad as a laptop? Well, it depends. I don't think that the iPad would be a terrible laptop replacement, especially with the Magic Keyboard attachment. Having said that, there are quirks. If you're not willing to shell out the hefty $350 for Apple's otherwise brilliant Magic Keyboard accessory, and you want to use the iPad Pro as a laptop replacement, you should either A. resort to one of the keyboard folios from Logitech, Bridge, and the like, or B. buy an iPad stand and use an external keyboard and mouse with a USB hub. Having experience with the latter, there are some occasional quirks. Occasionally, the iPad won't even recognize the hub, and you'll have to unplug or replug it so that it recognizes the mouse. Some iPad stands are built weird, and putting the iPad on it causes a weight imbalance, causing it to fall down. But most of the time, it works pretty well. Apple's first-party accessory is still a lot better. Once you use it more and more, you'll realize that it's pretty heavily bottlenecked. Everything has a bottleneck. You can't just eliminate bottlenecks from your system, because if you do, you'll have unlimited performance. Everything has a bottleneck, and having used this as my main computer for all my tasks, from editing videos to making music to browsing the web to taking Zoom calls, I figured out that the iPad Pro's bottleneck is something that a lot of people don't ever think about: iPadOS. I don't think iPadOS has matured enough for you to use the iPad Pro as your main device, even though it's a brilliant tablet. The multitasking capabilities are still a lot worse compared to Windows and macOS, and the lack of professional desktop apps like Final Cut or Xcode makes it even less compelling for professionals. And even the iPad versions of Photoshop or Lightroom are not as good as their desktop counterparts. Having said that though, Apple has taken steps to make it a lot more accommodating to do laptop things on it, like web browsing and email. The addition of USB-C was a big one, opening it up to a plethora of docks and hubs and other accessories. Adding keyboard and mouse support to this also helped a lot too, making it a lot easier to work in professional apps on the go, like Lightroom and Photoshop. The addition of desktop class web browsing was really great, and that changed the way many people use their iPads. Apple's addition of slide over and split screen was also a game changer in the iPad scene, even if it's still limited compared to the plethora of options you get on Windows or macOS. Even the addition of good spotlight search with command space on iPadOS was a real game changer. The iPad Pro is still a really promising device. The performance of the iPad Pro is unmatched in the tablet market. If you take the 2021 iPad Pro, the 2020 iPad Pro and the 2018 iPad Pro and you test it, chances are you won't notice much of a difference between them. This leads me to the impression that iPad Pro will be able to handle macOS, and only in a full-fat desktop operating system like macOS can you actually feel a difference between these three models. Of course, it's pretty much impossible that Apple will actually bring macOS to iPad Pro, but there might be something more compelling coming soon. With the addition of the laptop class M1 chip to the iPad, the addition of Thunderbolt to the new iPads, and the increase of max RAM to 16 gigs, I sense that Apple might bring Logic Pro, Final Cut Pro, and Xcode in its entirety to iPad Pro in WWDC 2021. Maybe that'll spark a change in the industry, causing the addition of many new apps to your iPad, making us iPad users happy. So should you buy the iPad Pro? If you're buying this as your main device and you don't have any other Windows/Mac to work on, don't get it. You'll be better off with the new M1 MacBook Air or another Windows laptop. If you want a good iPad, you'll do fine with the iPad Air. If you want the absolute best iPad, this iPad's for you. This iPad Pro is targeted squarely at the Windows thin and light market, and if you're looking at something in that price range, maybe look at this too. If you mainly intend on using this as a secondary device for email and web browsing, and for occasional professional work, the iPad Pro is legitimately made for you. Thanks for watching.